Stourbridge U-turn. East Grinstead, Dorman.
Hello everybody and welcome to East Grinstead for the 2025 Lowish Floor Bus Running Day. If you have not seen my previous video on this or have no idea what this bus rally is, it is a selection of heritage buses mainly from the 2000s and 1990s. But just like this Leyland Titan, there is some stuff from a little bit before then, and it mainly features rear-engined low-floor buses, as the name suggests. However, some vehicles, just like this Leyland Titan, are, well, not step-free, put it that way. They do have steps, and if you're in a wheelchair, you may have a hard time getting on some of these buses. There are two routes at the event, both operate between East Grinstead, Lingfield and Godstone, the 22 being the more direct one, operating via Felbridge and Blindley Heath, and the 25 takes some of the more obscure lanes between Lingfield and the surrounding areas at East Grinstead and Godstone. As I have previously mentioned, my first bus was this Leyland Titan, and I will be taking this to Godstone Station on the 22 service. Here we are passing through Felbridge. This is a great motor, and honestly, this is a great bus rally in itself. Here I am now in the village of South Godstone, where Godstone Station is. Now I tried to get on an awful lot of buses this time around, and whilst I didn't get on some of them because of overheating and delays due to the heavy traffic in East Grinstead, I did manage to get on quite a lot of buses, and my next bus was this Chaseside AGL Enviro 400. There were a few of these about, as well as a Chaseside Enviro 200, which I will be going on a little bit later on. I'll be taking this E400 to Lingfield, which is about the halfway point on both of the routes. Here is Chaseside 204 leaving Lingfield on the 22 service back towards East Grinstead. No matter if you are going into or out of East Grinstead, no buses were stopping at East Grinstead railway station this time around in 2025, as Southern were operating rail replacement bus services, and there were so many buses without this amazing bus rally. Lingfield, as you can probably tell, is a very popular spot for photographers and bus filmers alike. My next bus would be on the 25, and I would take this to East Grinstead via Dorman's land. This was an old Metro bus, Dennis Dart MPD Godstone Point 2, and was an amazing motor.
Let's see.
Wasn't this
The only one
this was the last Metro bus starting service, wasn't it?
No, the last one was LXO3.
I meant to say the last X-Reg one, the last Euro 2 one. Last Euro 2 one.
That makes sense.
It's not getting down there.
Yeah, no, it's not the less it's 26. I know. I think it is a 29.
What's the EBC?
Oh no, it's really low. That's just got the weird bulkhead. I don't know.
Yeah.
There are very few since they're all on X.
It's got a proper interior, it's got a...
Yeah. That's what my favourite interior is.
You're going to get it back to that.
No. So I trust it. I've got no surrounding. There's more stuff to stay. Box are hard still, so I think much stronger than that. I'll try. It's always the same. Yeah. Oh, we need all the out. Let's get that used to the top. Let's don't import something jumps. It's a bit of a complicated part. I can't be dropping.
Here I am on the outskirts of East Grinstead near the Queen Victoria Hospital, as well as the Coral Estate, which is where some of the Metrobus 400 services terminate.
I drove there last when they had it serviced. Blowing exhaust.
I said I was more. I used to be the world's biggest advice painter, and I bought one. I was like, it's alright.
Here I am arriving back at Grinstead High Street, otherwise known as the Grinstead Dorman. I was quite lucky to get on 344, that is this Dennis Dart MPD, as later on, along with the old Metrobus 379, which is a Cartino Nimbus Dennis Dart, overheated, so I was quite lucky to get on this Dart. Unfortunately, the other Dart, which is a Cartino Nimbus, I didn't manage to get on, and the other Dennis Dart, which was in, I don't know what the Metrobus liveries are called, but it was in a more modern one, also I didn't manage to get on that one, so it was a mixed day. I didn't manage to get on the Nimbus basically, but that Dennis Dart was an amazing motor. Here is the other Dennis Dart that I was talking about in a much newer Metrobus livery. I believe this was arriving out of service. Here is a Dublin bus Volvo Olympian. Last year, the same group of people brought over a Dublin bus Volvo B6B Elite White Crusader, which is a pretty decent bus. So this time around, they decided to bring along another Olympian. There are so many Olympians this time around, I don't think I managed to get on any of them. I'm not a massive fan of Olympians, but that one did look amazing. Here is a Dennistar MPD Plaxton Pointer 2 leaving East Grinstead on the 25 service, and just behind it is that same chase sign Enviro 400 on the 22 heading back in the other direction towards Godstone.
Okay, drive.
Here is ex-First London, and I believe it was also with RATP for a brief time, LK08FLD. This will be my chariot to the outskirts of East Grinstead at Felbridge. This is a pretty decent bus, but I'm glad I only took it to Felbridge, otherwise it probably would have got very boring after quite a while, as there are still many Enviro 200s in regular service, and there were quite a few at this event alone. As you just saw then, there was also a Portuguese bus from Madeira also attending the event. This looked like an absolute lemon of a bus, and I didn't manage to get on it.
Sorry about that. Sorry. Granddad. Sorry about that, Granddad.
Here I am passing East Grinstead railway station. As you can see, it is full of rail replacement buses. Some of them were more interesting than others, mainly the Scania Omnideckers and Omni-Cities. But as you'll see a little bit later on in the video, the Big Lemon, along with Seaford and District, which I believe is a subsidiary of the Big Lemon now, also brought along some very interesting buses, which was a shame, because I would have quite liked some of those buses to be on the bus rally itself, not on the rail replacement buses. Anyway, here we are approaching Felbridge Hotel, which is the main stop at Felbridge, located on the outskirts of the town, that is East Grinstead. This bus had a very mixed interior, most of it was still original and featured many First London things, including the seats, which were purple, and the whole interior of the bus, including the grab poles and everything. But some of the seat maquettes featured a very strange maquette. I'm not too sure what they were. They looked a little bit like Stagecoach, to be honest with you. Here is LK08 FLD leaving Felbridge. Now, I told you earlier on in the video that the Big Lemon, along with Seaford and District, brought along some quite special buses along the road replacement buses that were operating along the southern network, along with Go Ahead themselves. As you just saw then, both the Big Lemon and Go Ahead brought along some Scania Omnideckers. I'm quite intrigued on whether or not this Go North East delivery one is actually with Metrobus or Brighton and Hove, or if for some reason they actually brought it down from Newcastle. That seems like a very long way. As well as that, Arriva London also brought along some buses, some of them better than others. Yeah, they brought along some Street Decks and Gemini 3s, not the best in my opinion. Now I was going to get this Leyland Lynx back into East Grinstead town centre to get on my next bus, but I decided not to chance it as this bus was running about 7 minutes late and the traffic at the time of filming in East Grinstead was absolutely terrible. So unfortunately, that was the first bus that I didn't manage to get on that I was supposed to. I see more and more places starting to introduce these things at their bus stops. They're very smart and it's a shame that Somerset hasn't adopted them yet. Here is the most knackered sounding Volvo B70L Alexander ALX 400 I think I've ever seen. This was part of the Seaford and District operation, owned and operated by the Big Lemon. Here is another interesting Big Lemon ALX 400, this time actually wearing the Big Lemon livery. Here is a Volvo B70L Claxton President wearing the very iconic and very nice Metroline livery. This wasn't my next bus, however this was one of the many services on the 26 service that went by. Here's my next bus on the 22 arriving into Feltham. This is an open-top DAF DB250 Claxton President. This service was supposed to be operated by a Dennis Trident version, however at the last minute they decided to swap it out for this vehicle. This vehicle originally started its life with Arriva London, however it was then converted to open top and transferred to Toot Bus. I think there may have been a few other things in between that, and then by the looks of it, something happened with Go North East in Newcastle, as it is now wearing the Toon Tour livery. I'm not too sure if it ever went up to Newcastle, or if the owners of this bus just decided to paint it in the Toon Tour livery. Either way, it looks stunning and is a great motor. I'll be going on this again later on in the video. Here I am in Lingfield, which is a very busy transfer point from the 25 to the 22 routes and vice versa. If you like photographing buses, especially modern ones that aren't too modern but aren't too old, then this is a place to come when the lowest floor running day is going on. Anyway, I didn't have too long here at all before my next bus, which was running extremely late, arrived into Lingfield. This was an ex-Arriva Kent Volvo B70L Alexander ALX 400. It sounded decent and wore the very nice Arriva Interurban livery. Here I am arriving into the very congested and very crowded Godstone Green, located in the centre of the village. This is at the end of both the 22 and 25 routes, and is the closest point along the routes to the M25 motorway and London. This is where most of the northern feeder services branch off from the main routes. They run feeder services at this event to haul local passengers to the event that come from nearby villages and towns such as Crawley and Redhill.
I think they found Oh, it's such an OG, man.
Here I am now at Godstone, where there was a little bit of carnage and mayhem as both 379 and 344 had overheated. As you can see, since I last went on it, 379 has been repainted into a very retro Metrobus livery. Anyway, after some chaos here at Godstone Green, my next bus pulled round to the stand, which was a Volvo Olympian Northern Counties Palatine 2. There were two of these operating at the event. I believe both of them are convertibles, however only one of them had been converted into open top for the event. This was NV170 and was the closed top version.
Pushing. Go on, Dino. You've been here for us, so I know you've been waiting. You were here when I walked in.
Here I am leaving Godstone Green on this Volvo Olympian with Northern Counties bodywork on my way to Godstone Station again. I was going to take this all the way to Lingfield, however this bus was running around about 15 to 20 minutes late. Therefore I only decided to get it as far as Godstone Station, as I might have missed my bus back to Godstone itself, or I might have missed Lingfield entirely, as some buses were skipping the village and going straight along the main A road, instead of branching off onto the B road at Blindley Heath.
That's one of those. That's what I was doing when I was for this. Going around the M25 this afternoon. Yeah. Literally just before once. Oh, and there was people on the bridge over the water. Oh, yeah. I'm actually having that my last vehicle today, that was. What, where's Finland or are you? No, southbound. It's southbound. I'll catch you in a bit, Chris. Alright, see you in a bit.
Here I am now at South Godstone, which is quite a nice little village, but it is very strange, as there is an entire railway station here serving the village of Godstone. Back in the olden days, if the station was even around then, it would have been extremely hard to get to the village of Godstone itself, as buses wouldn't have been around in those times. Getting to Godstone by horse and cart must have taken ages, although saying that the station doesn't look like it was there in those times, so maybe I've gotten this completely and utterly wrong. Anyway, after seeing a lot of buses on the 22 and for some reason the 25 going in the other direction, my bus back to Godstone Village turned up, which was the open-top version of that Northern Counties Volvo Olympian.
I love driving.
After returning back to Godstone Green, it was time to see what the special vehicle was on the 25 service. It turned out this was a new acquisition done by a local group. I can't remember what they're called, I'm very sorry. However, they acquired this ex-Stagecoach ADL Enviro 200, which still wears the Stagecoach Beachpool livery. This was quite a nice motor, however it was just like most other Enviro 200s I've been on, albeit Stagecoach ones don't tend to sound like this as they have some sort of other VoIP engine.
What sort of round chop? I didn't get a good rating, let's put it that way.
Yeah, because I took up
I've got the 8. That's the, what's the word, professional. You should have worn your shirt and tie. I don't do that. Like that. Like Sam.
This is going to be fun. He's comes out of the hell yeah. I watch a TikTok video, it's bursting. It's not embarrassing, so...
Shit sweets like that.
Here I am going along the country lane somewhere near Crowhurst. I was going to get off in Crowhurst, but I wasn't too sure where the stop was, so I managed to find a stop, and then the drivers drove straight past, as there was no sign there. It was literally just a gravel lay-by. There was no indication of there being a bus stop, so to be fair, I don't really blame him for doing that. Therefore, I decided to get off in Lingfield again. This route was very interesting, however it does take quite a while to get between Godstone and Lingfield. Here is a DAF DB250 Alexander ALX 400 leaving on the 22, and just behind it the special Enviro 200 on the 25, still wearing the old Stagecoach beach blue. Oh, I've said Stagecoach beach blue with this. Just ignore what I'm saying, it's the Stagecoach local livery. It's very similar to the beach blue livery in a lot of ways which you will not understand because it really isn't. Just ignore what I'm saying, it's in the Stagecoach local livery. And on the other side of the road is the Portuguese turd again. Honestly, it looks like an absolute dump. Although saying that, it sounded very nice, and it was very popular. Just like another bus we'll be seeing later on. You can probably guess what that was. Here is Dennis Trident Alexander ALX 400 LK05 GGP arriving into Lingfield. I went on this vehicle last year, and since then it's been repainted into a very nice Metro line look. Here is my next bus arriving into Lingfield, 20 minutes behind the special Enviro 200 on the 25 again. This time this was a Dennistar SLF Claxton Pointer 2 and had the same type of engine, the older style of Dennistar engine, as 344, the Dennistar MPD we went on earlier that has now overheated. This was another great motor, however I only took it as far as the small village of Dorman's Land, just up the road from Lingfield itself. Here I am now in Dorman's Land, where I took a very big gamble. Now, I was looking all over Facebook to see if there are any updates on 379, the broken Dennistar SLF Cotino Nimbus, or however you say it, Cotino, Catano. I'm not too sure how you say it. However you say it, somebody said they saw it on East Grinstead High Street, so I thought, oh, it must be on its way. Nope, my parents told me that it had broken down on East Grinstead High Street. So, yeah, I had to wait 20 minutes behind the Dennistar SLF for the next 25, which would be this absolutely rubbish Enviro 200. Another one, once again operated by Chaseside. I do quite like their livery, however this bus itself was absolutely knackered, and it's not even that old. It was being operated by Reaver, two other independent operators, as well as Diamond Bus, who probably have done a very awful conversion from a middle door into a non-middle door bus. As you can see, it just looks terrible and it was absolutely knackered. That's enough of me moaning. It was a decent motor. Let's just get to East Grinstead. Here I am arriving back into East Grinstead, just in front of the Grinstead MPD Optare S-Steam that just arrived into East Grinstead as well, out of service, from wherever the buses were parking, out of sight, so nobody could come and vandalise them, I suppose. And also, if they all parked on the high street in East Grinstead, it would have been absolute chaos. It was chaos, well, when all the buses came here, let alone if they parked here permanently. Anyway, at this point, he was very busy, and I was soon to find out why. Here I am now in East Grinstead. Now I just assumed it was so busy just because of the volume of people. It was a lot better weather this year than what it was last year. Not a cloud in the sky, and the temperature itself was much warmer than last year, and there were a few odd buses. But the one thing I didn't realise that was coming, I knew it was supposed to be coming, and then earlier on in the video, which I don't think I included this clip, I saw a Hong Kong ECW at Godstone station. So I thought, that's in place of this vehicle. No, it wasn't. This special bus was not this Dennis Trident Alexander ALX 400, which I'll be going on later on in the video. That would actually be the next bus. No, everybody was here not because of that Dennis Trident, but because of this, an ex-KMB bus which operates around Hong Kong Super Olympian, otherwise known as a Volvo B10TL White Eclipse Gemini. This was an amazing bus. I didn't get on it for obvious reasons, and it's definitely going next year. They've already announced it, and well, just look at how busy the bus was. There was loads of people on it, and I don't blame them all for trying to get on it. It was an amazing motor. After a few buses had gone from East Grinstead on the 22 and 25 route, just like the southbound in 4200 and in other northern counties just then, my next bus pulled up. Unfortunately, some lads pushed by me and managed to get the back seat just before I did, and then moaned at me for being in the way of their cameras. Well, that's what you get for pushing past me, isn't it? Anyway, my next bus would be my only Dennis Trident, as they cut out that Platinum President earlier in the video for a DAF version. This was an ex-Cardinal Buses Dennis Trident Alexander ALX 400. I think that's how you say it. Cardinal, who knows? I'll be taking this to Lingfield again. arriving into Lingfield, where it was quite busy as well, as the Super Olympian had already gone by here. This is great for photographers, and the weather here was just superb. It's a shame we've got all the flights coming over from Gatwick Airport. After that, Dennis Trident left. It was a little bit of a waiting game for the next bus heading back towards East Grinstead, as for some reason, due to the traffic earlier on in the video, there was a massive gap, and then all of a sudden 3 buses turned up at once. They did that going north to Godstone, and they pretty much did that going back south to East Grinstead. The first bus that turned up was that nasty 50 open top that we went on earlier in the video. So you know what I did? I went straight for the top. Here I am leaving Lingfield on my final bus of the day. I'm not too sure where it really went, and unfortunately I didn't get on the Leyden Links because of the traffic, and because of the Cortino Nim bus failing, I didn't get on that Nim bus or the Opta S-Steam that was out today as well. However, it was all in all an amazing day, and thank you for your support on the YouTube channel, because it is exactly 5 years. I've still not gotten to 1,000 subscribers, but who cares? It's been 5 years since I started this YouTube channel. I cannot believe that, and honestly, the lowest floor running day is a great day, but there's some very strange people here, and some very crazy people as well, I'll tell you that. Now, at this point, there are 3 buses all following each other pretty much, just minutes behind, or at least 2 of them were, as around 3 minutes behind this one was the open top Northern Counties, and way behind that, well, you should have known, it was the Super Olympian. Here I am arriving into Felbridge again, this time just passing through, heading back towards East Grinstead. Now if you are interested in buses of this type, but not interested in the lowest floor running day, then Felbridge is a great place for filming rail replacement buses when they are on. And if you're interested in both, or just decided to film at Felbridge for the day, which I didn't see anybody do for obvious reasons, there's nothing here, then you would have got mountains and mountains of buses. Some of them better than others because of the rail replacements. But even then, the Big Lemon and Go Ahead group brought along some amazing vehicles. Here I am now back at East Grinstead High Street next to the War Memorial. As you can see, only a few minutes behind this Toons Hall liveried DAF DB250 Claxton President was the open top Northern Counties, and coming the other way was this Volvo B70L Claxton President on the 22 to Godstone, and then on the 22 feeder service to Purley, nearly in London. Not quite. Just a side note, the reason why the Purley feeder might have been a little bit delayed, I'm not too sure, I didn't really know very much about it, is because when I was driving home, I actually passed this bus near London Heath broken down, believe it or not. It looked like all of the passengers safely got onto another bus, which was nice to see. Anyway, just in case you thought that B7 did well not breaking down for the majority of the day, something else that did astronomically well, considering the amount of popularity it had hanging off its backside, was this Volvo B10TL Bright Eclipse Gemini, otherwise known as the Volvo Super Olympian. I'm not too sure why it's called a Super Olympian. An Olympian at all sounds a bit strange, considering it's a B10 Gemini. After doing some bus filming and waiting for the B10 to head off, the B10 finally went off, and I'd just like to leave you with one thing. Thank you very much for watching this video, and if there was only one thing you guys could do for me, can you please get me to 1,000 subscribers in 10 days? It's been 5 years. Honestly, I enjoy doing this, or mostly enjoy doing it, especially filming the buses. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.